Live from New York, this is the Harvey Hour. My name is Nathan Harvey, and as always, I'm joined alongside my dad, Stephen Harvey. How you doing today on a beautiful Friday?
I'm great. I love Fridays.
As many people do, yeah. End of the
I'm
work
looking forward to making my picks.
Yeah, we got some good picks coming up in about an hour from now. We're gonna make our picks about 45 minutes from now. We got a big game yesterday. The 49ers, the New York Giants. Always good to watch some football, although pretty underwhelming if you're a Giants fan, although I think it should at least be expected going up against one of the, probably you could put them in the top three of NFL teams. A lot of people may even have them at number one right now. But that is the topic we're going to start on, so let's begin. So the New York Giants fell to the San Francisco 49ers 30-12. Daniel Jones, 137 yards and an interception. Brock Purdy, 310 yards in that contest. Also, Christian McCaffrey, 18 carries, 85 yards, and a touchdown. It's pretty impressive what the 49ers have been able to do thus far this season. Brock Purdy, when he starts and finishes games, is still undefeated. And in the regular season, I believe he is 8-0, which is absolutely incredible. So I want to know, just what were your takeaways from last night's game?
Well, obviously the San Francisco 49ers have some great skilled players on offense, right? They have Samuels, they have McCaffrey, they have Kittle, and now they have Brock Purdy. I got to say, Brock Purdy's one of the better quarterbacks in the league. He's really very cool, looks great out there, doesn't make mistakes, throws the ball accurately, had 300 passing yards, right? And he was 22 of 32. I'm sorry, he was 25 of 37, 2 TDs, right? Had 24 fantasy points. He had a great game. I will say, though, the Giants were in the game, actually, until 6 minutes to go in the fourth quarter. It was 23-12. I mean, it wasn't like they were out of it. They could have come back, but then that pass by Daniel Jones to Waller, and it hit his hands and went up in the air, and they intercepted it. They scored off that. Who was the last team to win their first 3 games with 30 points in every game?
Who's the last team?
Who's the last team that did that? 3 games in a row, first 3 games of the season, 30 points scored.
Well, I would say these 49ers.
No.
Really? Who?
The 2007 Patriots.
Gotcha.
They won 18 games in a row before they lost the Super Bowl.
Of what?
In 2007, right?
That's pretty
to
incredible.
The Giants.
Yeah,
to the Giants.
To the Giants, yeah.
Yeah. I'd say the Giants, the defense played okay. They don't have enough skill players. I don't think Daniel Jones is that bad a quarterback, personally. He looks okay out there. He just doesn't have enough time to throw, and he doesn't have that many people to throw it to, actually, right? I think some of those receivers were pretty good last year, but I don't know. Waller is a high-quality guy, but you see what some of these quarterbacks can do when they have great receivers. Look at Baker Mayfield.
Yeah.
Right? He's got great receivers this year. Now he looks like an all-pro.
No, I wouldn't have pictured that.
All-pro.
He's doing very
good. They're 2-0.
They are.
Right?
They are.
He's had 300 yards passing last week.
It was incredible. No turnovers, too.
Yeah.
It's incredible.
He was a quarterback that was never going to start again, right? And now he's out there.
Every single time you get an opportunity, you just poke me with that. Yeah.
So I wasn't surprised. I thought the Giants would cover, actually, but without Saquon Barkley, that was probably a bad decision. I don't know how long he's going to be out, but they need him back. They need him back because they really still this year, despite all they tried to do, maybe Darren Waller is up there with Jones and Barkley, but they really only have those 2 guys still, it looks like to me, and that's not going to take them that far.
Well, that is true. And I was thinking about this, pre-show. I was like, what's the perfect comparison to what Brock Purdy could be? Because it seems like he's not really the main star there. It's just I think we're more in awe over the story of Brock Purdy than we are about his actual play. I mean, we have some quarterbacks, for instance. Justin Fields was one of the top picks in the draft. We talk more about how bad he plays than the fact that he was drafted that high. I mean, Zach Wilson, we clown on him for his draft choice. I really think, and the comparison I came up with when it comes to Brock Purdy is I think Brock Purdy is more of a Honda Accord. It's cheap, It's reliable, it's dependable, and it's not flashy. It does its job without being flashy, compared to another quarterback in the league like Mahomes, who is extremely talented. And if we're talking about cars, I put him as a Rolls Royce. He's very expensive, he is flashy, he does the job, and he has more features than needed. A Honda Accord just gets the job done. And that's what Brock Purdy does. He simply just gets the job done. And that's that's what Kyle Shanahan's offense needs. It doesn't need a guy who's 6'4", 220, and super athletic. And guess what? That actually didn't work in this offense. What did work was a Jimmy G, a guy who is incredibly accurate, who doesn't throw games away entirely, who's not necessarily turnover prone. Is he injury prone? Yeah. But he's super efficient with the ball. That's why he could. I mean, he actually has looked pretty good with the Raiders thus far this season, but that's why he worked in Kyle Shanahan's offense, and that's why Sam Darnold, Kyle Shanahan loves him. I mean, everyone considers him a bust. He was okay in Carolina. He comes to San Francisco. Kyle Shanahan's like, we could relight your career. We could basically say we're going to save your career. And they gave up on Trey Lance because of that. They made Sam Darnold QB too. So when I think of Brock Purdy, I mean, it's not flash. I mean, he had 310 yards, and nearly 2/3 of his yards were yards after the catch, because they have guys like George Kittle and Christian McCaffrey and Elijah Mitchell. Brandon Ayuk was out for this game. But you have all these types of players, and they are super, super athletic, and they don't have the speed of a Tyreek Hill per se, but they have his ability to catch it at like the 3 yards past the line of scrimmage and just go.
How about that guy Bell? He had a nice catch, got his feet down, scored a touchdown.
Ronnie Bell,
wasn't an easy catch.
Yeah, he actually had a beautiful
ever heard
touchdown.
of, and he was good.
He had a beautiful touchdown catch.
Yeah.
One of them. I will say this though. Well, Brock Purdy, yes, like I listed, he was the Honda Accord. Efficient, gets the job done, is cheap, and, like I said, it does the job. Brock Purdy has been very lucky throughout his career so far. There are a lot of throws where they could have been intercepted. I mean, I think there was one intended, I forgot who was intended to. It may have been Debo, but it gets tipped up, and Ronnie Bell, I think, is right there to catch the ball. I would probably say 75% of those tip-ups go to the other team, but not when it comes to Brock Purdy. I think 2 minutes into the game, there was a throw to George Kittle, and George Kittle needed to play cornerback because Adoree Jackson, I think, was right there to intercept the ball. I mean, there are a lot of cases where Brock Purdy is this close to having it go to the other team.
That's surprising, right? He wears number 13.
Yeah.
You think he'd have bad luck. He has great luck.
Hey, some people think, 13 is good luck, but what I find absolutely incredible is that I think, I'm pretty sure I get the stat right. Every single game, every regular season game that Christian McCaffrey's played in for the 49ers, they're undefeated. They have not lost with Christian McCaffrey in the regular season, which I find absolutely incredible, and that just shows that this team can win on so many levels. I mean, Elijah Mitchell was the running back with Jimmy G for a large part of that time. They were winning with Elijah Mitchell because they had Debo and Brandon Ayuk and George Kittle. Now you add Christian McCaffrey to a guy who maybe it's really up for debate whether or not Brock Purdy versus Jimmy G. They're incredibly close. You could basically say they're the same person, but Brock Purdy doesn't make maybe the big time mistakes that Jimmy G did, at least in the playoffs. I mean, this team can win on many, many levels. The question is, though, are they the best team in the NFL right now? I think if you talk about
close
talent, top to bottom, offense, defense,
right
I think they're right up there, absolutely, and they're probably the best hands down. Just if you're talking about overall talent, but I think really defensively, they're number 2 on my list. I think the Cowboys, with the way they're playing, yes, they've beaten up on some bad teams. However, the 49ers have as well. They haven't exactly been, through the trenches there. They've been playing like the Pittsburgh Steelers, who have the fewest first downs in the NFL. They played against the Giants this week. So, I mean, I would give it to the Cowboys.
I would say the 49ers have a better offense than the Cowboys. Right? I think they do.
Yeah,
overall,
okay.
You think about all the skill players, right?
Dak makes too many mistakes.
I think, and it's something to say that Brock Purdy, we'd favor Brock Purdy over Dak Prescott. Brock Purdy's really still a rookie in a way, right?
He's on his rookie contract. He's played what? He played like what? I want to say in total, including
5
playoffs.
games last year.
Yeah, but including playoffs, I think it's like 7-8 games. Yeah,
he got hurt. He got hurt early in the NFC Championship game.
So if this was baseball, he would technically still be qualified for Rookie of the Year. Technically,
that's right.
So I can give you that, but think about it. I saw something on Instagram right before the show. Al Michaels is making more money calling the games than Brock Purdy is playing in the games. Yeah, because he's Mr. Irrelevant, and that's why I think we're so enthralled by Brock Purdy is the story.
Brock Purdy was drafted
dead last. The very
last player drafted.
Yeah,
right?
very, very last pick.
He's got similarities to Tom Brady.
Well, that's what people were comparing him to last year. They were saying there's a combination of Tom Brady and Kurt Warner.
I think of him
undrafted
as a Tom Brady.
and 6th round pick.
I think you can draw analogies there if you want to make analogies to other players. I'd say Tom Brady is one.
Well, we talked about that last year, and that's why I say you got to slow down a little bit because we don't know what he is.
Yeah.
But this 49ers team, it doesn't do flash. Like the quarterback doesn't need to be this guy with a monster arm. It doesn't need a guy who could run a 4.4 or a 4.3. You don't need that. Can you get because these receivers and at least Elijah Mitchell and Christian McCaffrey. These guys are so incredible that they are incredibly talented that they're going to get open. Can you just get the ball on time and make the throw? And that's why certain quarterbacks, like, some would say below average quarterbacks like Jimmy Garoppolo, have made it work. Brock Purdy, he is not a guy who's a Lamar Jackson or a Justin Fields or a Jalen Hurts mobility. He doesn't have the arm of a Mahomes or a Josh Allen. He's kind of, around like the 15 range when you talk about overall just skill set.
He's moving up in the ranks. He's undefeated in 8 games.
When he starts and finishes games, yes, he is undefeated. Yeah, that is true.
And, how about Deebo Samuels after he catches the ball last night? He's unstoppable.
Yeah, absolutely.
He got so many extra yards that you wouldn't have expected him to get. Nobody else would have gotten. He's just a beast.
I feel like every single person on the 49ers runs angry. Like they're running for a purpose to get more yards. On the Giants side, a lot of their offensive linemen were dealing with injuries. Saquon Barkley was out. You couldn't run the ball. Matt Breida and Gary Brightwell each, tied for the game or the Giants' most in carries with 4 apiece. Daniel Jones only ran it twice. This team cannot move the ball very well. And honestly, what's crazy is that the 49ers actually allowed more pressure than the Giants did. The Giants' offensive line held up. Both were terrible. Both were nearly 50% pressure on the quarterback. But the Giants' offensive line held up slightly better than the 49ers' offensive line did.
All they got was 150 yards the whole game.
That's what's incredible.
29 yards rushing and 121 passing.
Yeah.
You're not going to win a game like that.
Absolutely not. So
49ers have 441 yards.
They are
and interestingly,
on fire.
the game was still within reach. Midway through the 4th quarter.
Right. So, and honestly, that's how. Now here's the thing. Overall, the Giants' defense didn't play great, but what they did in this game, which was incredible, is they took away any sort of big plays. Brock Purdy had the lowest average depth of target in this game, and it was I think it was a little over 5 yards. 5 yards a target. So he was dinking and dunking his way to victory.
Yeah.
And what's crazy is that these 3rd and longs, most quarterbacks nowadays aren't going to take the shot. They're going to screen pass it, and the Giants couldn't stop it. So while they took away big plays, overall their defense wasn't even that great. Talent-wise, where was Jalen Hyatt? Their rookie wide receiver that they were harking. I think he had 2 catches for 89 yards, if I want to say that correctly, in week 2. He was incredible. So this offense needs a lot of work. And something that I find very surprising, at least, I think some people would, but I don't personally, Daniel Jones is horrible in primetime. He has the Kirk Cousins effect. When the lights are the brightest, he comes up probably the darkest. Yeah, he's not in the light whatsoever. So Daniel Jones, people put him in the top 10 of quarterbacks. This guy's got to perform at least. This guy's got to perform, and he can. Yes.
The Giants, they can't do anything in the first half.
No,
the
it's
first
rough.
game, they couldn't do anything the whole game. They didn't even score.
And then the
last week, they were terrible in the first half, and then they got it going. Kind of the same thing this week.
But once again, they're playing against one of the worst. They just played against one of the worst teams in the NFL, in the Arizona Cardinals. You can't how much am I going to put in it? Yes, Daniel Jones was spectacular in the second half, but it was against the Cardinals. Against the Cardinals. They're going for the Cardinals are, they're playing very, very tough, but they're going for the first overall pick probably. Yeah. That's at least where a lot of people projected them. So this Giants team needs a lot of work. I think giving Daniel Jones $40 million, he's got to at least perform sometime. You got to make the best of what you got. Yeah. And right now,
well, it needs a little more protection.
I'll say
That's
this.
gotta be
They
better.
held up better than the 49ers offensive line did.
They did. They played better last night, but they still only got 150 yards.
No. The offense was horrible, but overall, we're gonna have to wait and see. The 49ers still look dominant, and Brock Purdy still lighting it up.
You think the Giants will be last in their division this year?
Commanders look good. They look surprisingly
Everybody else is undefeated
good.
in their division.
Sam Howell was lighting up the Broncos in that second half. I mean, hey, we're gonna talk about the Broncos after the break, but I don't know the Broncos. I don't know if they're gonna be a good team. I mean, I'm liking.
Look like it.
I'm liking the way my prediction turned out to be. But we'll talk about that later on in the show. Let's get into our next topic here. So I find this absolutely fascinating how Justin Fields is now calling out his own coaches as a potential reason for his robotic play so far this season. This is what he actually had to say on the matter.
I felt like, I wasn't necessarily playing my game. Felt like I was kind of robotic and, not playing like myself. My goal this week is just to, say F it and just go out there and, play football how I know how to play football. That includes thinking less and just going out there and, playing off of instincts rather than just so much, so to say, info in my head, data in my head, and literally just going out there playing football.
When you say thinking less, what do you think was causing you to think so much, maybe think too much?
Could be, coaching. I don't think it's too many coaching voices, but I just think when, you're fed a lot of information at a point in time and you're trying to think about that info, like when you're playing, it's like it doesn't let you play like yourself. You're trying to process so much information to where it's like, if I just simplified in my mind, I would have did this.
What I find absolutely fascinating about what Justin Fields is saying, by the way, he had to clarify his comment because obviously when you say something like that, it blows up on social media. This is what he had to... He tried to clarify his comment by saying this. I'm not blaming anything on the coaches. I'm never going to blame anything on my teammates. Whatever happens in a game, I will take all the blame. I don't care. If it's a drop pass, it should have been a pass. Put it on me. He continues by saying, whenever you hear anything come out of my mouth to where I would blame it on somebody else in this organization, my teammates, never will you hear that. Well, based on what you said in the press conference, you said, you were asked, why do you feel like you've been playing robotic? And he goes, coaching. So you are blaming your coaches. And the fact that you need to, sort of damage control there kind of means that, yeah, you said something you probably should have. And then he tried to, make nice of it in front of the cameras and hug his coach. But I want to know, do you think... Or what are your reaction, first of all, to Justin Fields' comments? And do you think potentially, sooner rather than later, Justin Fields won't be in a Chicago Bears uniform?
Well, he's obviously frustrated, right? I mean, they've lost 12 in a row. I think that's a record for the Bears in terms of continuous losses. He got sacked 6 times in the Tampa Bay game. He only had 3 yards rushing. I mean, rushing is part of his game. He's kind of like a Lamar quarterback, right? He's really mobile. He's had some real success when he runs the ball. He only got 3 yards. I mean, they've been telling him to stay in the pocket more, so he tried to do that. And he's still what? This is his 3rd year, right?
Yes, third year.
The beginning of his 3rd year. So he's obviously frustrated. I mean, he said some things. He should not have said that for sure. I mean, maybe you say that to the coaches in private, but you're not gonna say that out in front of the media because you get hammered by people like us, right?
Yeah.
So I think the coach bailed him out basically. He said, "I want to play more free. I want to play free." I don't know, being out there and saying I don't want to think about what's going on out there. I'm thinking too much. That may not be such a good thing. I mean, if you're not thinking at all, you're going to make mistakes too.
Right.
But he wants to play more free. The coach said, "Yeah, that's what we want him. We want him to be feeling like he's playing free out there. We need to work together on this." So the coach bailed him out for sure.
Yeah.
And I don't think there's any hard feelings about that. He walked back what he said. I think in the Bears organization, I don't think there's any hard feelings towards him. He said, "You know what? I'll take all the blame."
Yeah.
So
well,
he walked
that's
it back
what you need
pretty
to do
fast.
when you take a shot at your coaches.
When you're under the hot lights, sometimes you say things that you make mistakes. Saying things, so he did there, and he recognized it, and he walked it back. So I give him a break on that.
Well, I'll say something that yes, while you're under the highlights, you may say something that probably you didn't necessarily mean, or you may say something that you shouldn't have said publicly. You could also take it that way. You may have said something that, maybe you haven't given the full context of, and that might be the case, or you slipped up, which could also be the case, where in his mind he thinks coaching's screwing me over. And what I find absolutely crazy is that he's saying he's thinking too much. So his 16 of 29, 211 yards, 1 touchdown, 2 picks, one of which was like a Kyler Murray against the Rams playoff game, pick 6, I think it might have been pick 6, to Shaq Barrett on a screen pass. That's you thinking too much? Missing, there was a play that went super viral on social media where he had like three or 4 routes wide open. It may have been in his own red zone. DJ Moore, by the way, he was on that same play. He was frustrated because he was wide open on a simple out route. He had a bunch of routes open, and he didn't throw it a single time. He ran into his own offensive line. And also this. Justin Fields, I feel like, thinks he has more time in the pocket than he actually does.
That's because he's back there thinking too much. That's what he said.
And stands there and stands there. There's some routes that are open. There just doesn't go through his progressions.
He didn't see him.
I don't understand what the problem is. But what I found fascinating is that I saw it on social media. I said, well, he should run more. If he runs more, he'll be much more efficient. And so I crunched some numbers. When he runs for 50 or more yards compared to under 50 yards, this is what he looks like. It's not really that much of a difference.
1 in 12.
He's very bad. All around, he is just a bad quarterback. There's not a drastic change. The passer rating is a little bit better. The touchdown-to-interception ratio is a little bit better. But he's not all of a sudden a night and day type of quarterback. All around, he's bad. So regardless of whether it's whether he runs 50
he's a little
or more
better.
yards.
I mean, for him, the record is terrible.
The record's worse.
Yeah, but his individual performance is better when he runs for more than 50 yards, right? 16 TDs, 11
better.
16
Slightly
TDs, 11 interceptions, 60%
compared to 59.
Yeah.
So
yeah, I mean that's nothing, but 85
to 70
versus 70.
By the way, if we're saying that 85 is not good, but it's better than when he runs for, it's better than 70. But if we're saying that he's a completely night and day quarterback, that is just not the case. He doesn't go from being top 15 when he runs 50 or more yards to being bottom 10. That's just not how it works. All in all, he's just a bad quarterback through and through. So I think it's, while it may be the coaching that needs to, improve a little bit, to say that you're thinking too much and you're going to just go let it free, just rip it loose when you're not a great quarterback altogether, I mean, that's not a good sign for the Bears. Mm-hmm. And
he lost this year so far to Tampa Bay and
and the first game was against Green Bay. Got walloped by Green Bay. Yeah. I'll also say this: it's not a great week for Chicago. I think it just came out today, or it happened yesterday. They lost. I think it's over $100,000 in like on-field equipment. Someone broke into the stadium and stole $100K worth of equipment. So not a great week in Chicago when it comes to this. But
isn't one of his offensive linemen hurt as well? I think that came out too, that he's going to be missing one of his offensive linemen.
You may be right.
Yeah, that's not so good. And they're playing this week.
They're playing the Chiefs.
The Chiefs. Oh my!
They're
God.
12.5-point underdogs.
I'm picking the Chiefs. So.
I think a lot of people would. Yeah. So I mean, I really cannot. And by the way, this is also another thing. Justin Fields. I talked about this on the Harvey Hour Fired Up a couple weeks ago. He had more MVP, bets on than some top quarterbacks combined.
I know.
He was plus 2,000 odds. And of course, people are like, yeah, you'll see. What I'm seeing right now is still the quarterback I've seen for the past two prior years. A bad quarterback who, yes, he's a very mobile and athletic quarterback. But when his numbers call to actually make the plays, make the throws, and try to win games, he's a 5-22 record with sub 60% completion percentage for his career. That's not good. Yeah. All in all, it's bad. It's very bad.
He's got to get it going here. That's for sure. You're right. He won't be there.
No, win-loss, it's a little bit different. But just, if we're talking about overall just skill, he's slightly above Zach Wilson. Slightly above. Because Zach Wilson is very careless with the football. At least Justin Fields has a positive touchdown-to-interception ratio. But all in all, it's not looking good for the Chicago Bears and Justin Fields. All right, it's coming up. Sean Payton once again is calling out his quarterback as the Broncos lost to the Commanders this past week. And also, by the way, is Russell Wilson and Sean Payton, is their relationship heading for a divorce? Also, we wrap up the show with our Week 3 picks and Week 3 of my Harvey hot hand right after this.
Whether you're just discovering your voice or taking your show to the next level, you know what the world needs to hear. All you have to do is say it. With Spotify, set up your podcast. Your food podcast. Your mindfulness podcast. Your never thought you'd get this far podcast. And watch those sparks fly.
I put a picture of the
Drop the episode anywhere people listen. And find out who they're cooking with. Where they're finding inner balance. And why they love your show. You're already a creator. Now you can create, connect, and get paid for your passion with one single free tool. Spotify for podcasters. Talk where the world listens.
Using Wi-Fi without NordVPN could mean sharing your private stuff with more people than you think. Stay safe on public Wi-Fi. Get NordVPN's special offer and encrypt your internet connection. NordVPN. Online security starts with a click.
Welcome back to the Harvey Hour. My name's Nathan Harvey, and as always, I'm joined alongside my dad, Stephen Harvey. Good to have you in on a Friday. Let's continue on with the show with our next topic. So, once again, Sean Payton calling out his maybe potentially future Hall of Fame quarterback, although I think that is, his chances are dwindling game by game by game since he came to the Broncos. But he called out his quarterback in a post-game press conference after losing to the Washington Commanders by saying this.
What was going on
Well,
there?
it was
and how
more than
frustrating
just
was it?
one drive. There was a number of drives, where we're late with personnel, getting out of the huddle. We took a while. I mean, that's got to change. We had to burn timeouts in the first half, and I'm not used to doing. We got to be better, and I've got to be better. Russ has got to be sharper with getting the play out, and then we got to look at how much we have in. But if we need to wristband it, we will.
I mean, that wristbanding stuff we heard when Nathaniel Hackett was there in order, for that clock management. That's when Nathaniel Hackett got ripped on when he was with the Broncos. Horrible clock management. So bad they had to hire a guy to work on clock management. So I want to know, what's your reaction to what Sean Payton is saying about Russell Wilson? And do you think this relationship 2 weeks in is already failing?
Well, I think Sean Payton is setting the stage and the context here that last year it was the coaching that was the problem. But this year, if there's a problem, and there is so far, they're 0-2, it's the player, not the coaching. Okay? And that's going to be the story. And guess what? Russell Wilson's owed like $35 million next March. And if they have a losing season this year, I would say he's gone. I don't think they'll pick up that $35 million. He'll be done, right? And so I think that Sean Payton is aware of all of this, and he doesn't want to be canned. So he's making it clear that it's his system. It's been successful in the past. He never had any problem with verbiage, as he said. It was never an issue with his other quarterbacks. You never heard that mentioned. He's had a number of quarterbacks. They all had nice ratings playing for him under his system. So far, Russell Wilson hasn't. And he's only 2 games in, so it's a small sample. But if this continues, I would say it's a fractured relationship, and you won't see Russell Wilson with them again next year.
I would say it's very difficult for the Broncos to move off Russ next season, strictly because if they do, I guess they could potentially trade him, but I don't know who would want him. Their dead cap next year, if they get rid of Russ, is $107 million. That ain't going to happen. The next out you really have without, insane deficits is 2026. I don't know how. I mean, Sean Payton might not want to coach the Broncos, up
Why
until
did he go
2026.
there? I don't understand. Why did he pick the Broncos to go to?
Maybe
anyway?
he likes a challenge, and
I guess so.
I would think right now it's not working
kind
too
of
well.
sour. He's in the press criticizing Russell Wilson every week now.
How about
really-
this? He ripped on Nathaniel Hackett, one of the worst coaching jobs ever in the
That
NFL.
was a mistake. He never should. He apologized for that too.
He did. He feel like he overstepped. What's ironic about this is through 2 weeks, now heading into to week 3, Nathaniel Hackett had a better record than Sean Payton. They start off 1-1. Sean Payton's 0-2. So right now, Nathaniel Hackett has done a better job than Sean Payton has with this Russell Wilson situation. I'll say this right now. Russell Wilson in the fourth quarter is historically bad. When he was with the Seahawks, he was historically great. I think he has the best touchdown to interception ratio in NFL history in the fourth quarter. Now, since coming to the Broncos, it has been an utter mess. And this was against the Commanders we're talking about. A team that right now is actually building some respect up.
Yeah.
But
2-0.
But through and through, at the beginning of the season, they were not a team people are banking on. Sam Howell was a huge question mark. We didn't know what the offense would look like with Eric Bieniemy. We didn't know if Ron Rivera was still a phenomenal coach or even really a good coach. There was internal turmoil with the selling of the team, that whole situation. There was a lot of moving pieces here. And so, at least for me, I thought there would be some sort of either a slow build to be at least half decent or just flat out bad. And it turns out that the Commanders, their defense looks really good. Chase Young is back, so they're surprisingly good. And the Broncos are basically where we saw them last year. Russ is still bad. I mean, since coming to the Broncos, his touchdown percentage has gone down. His interception percentage has gone up. His yards per completion has gone down. His yards per attempt has gone down. I mean, a bunch of things. His passer rating has plummeted from 101.8 with the Seahawks to 87.3 with the Denver Broncos. I mean, like I said, his touchdown percentage is nearly halved. So it's not the same production, not the same player, not the same quarterback. Really, this looks very, very bad. And Sean Payton, I believe, we haven't been counting, but if I'm not mistaken, this may be his second or third direct call-out at Russell Wilson.
Yeah.
You have one with Nathaniel Hackett, and then you have maybe two or three.
I think
right
three
on
now.
because I remember he talked about his first thing was like what Russ did last year. There's gonna be none of that because there was like he had his own private office or something like that. He abolished that. So Sean Payton, he's trying to build up a culture, and right now you can only build up a culture when it's when it's shown and proven that it could be successful. And right now it's failing. 0-2. Overall bad coaching, and Russell Wilson in the fourth quarter in the second half has looked, abysmal, maybe too nice of a word.
Do you think that he'll be wearing the wristband this week?
I think he has to because we heard it. We heard in the offseason. We talked about it. There was a report out saying that Russell Wilson had a difficult time learning this offense, figuring out concepts and learning Sean Payton's offense. Well, guess what? It doesn't look like he's figuring out much now because the entire, this so far this season, it's been an entire mess. So much so, he's now going to need to, simplifying this offense down to a wristband. And on script, so generally, maybe the first quarter of plays, he's been very, very good. It's just when you go off script, he's terrible. Sub 60% completion percentage.
They played well in the first half last week. They
did. And then in that second half in the fourth quarter, he had one Hail Mary miracle at the very end.
How about that play, though? That was an interesting play, you have to say.
It tipped off like
four guys. The guy was right in his face, and he threw that ball. He did get it down there.
No, he did.
He got it down there.
His strength is still there, but the fact that tipped off of like 3 or 4 Commanders right into the hands of a Broncos receiver.
Then they couldn't get the 2-point conversion. Yeah,
there was a little bit of controversy there, to pass interfere, to not pass interference. I mean, this team looks bad, and to say that it's the same thing with Kyler Murray.
I actually thought of that 2-point conversion. It was a poor throw. It really wasn't a very good throw.
It was a little bit little bit too far ahead, but
he had a little lower and in his gut. The guy he would have caught it even with the guy on his back.
Potentially, I'll say this though. What I find very fascinating is that this situation I think could really mimic the Cardinals situation, but I think because Kyler Murray's hurt right now, the Broncos may be the first one to strike on this scenario, and it's the fact that always the first one to blame, always the first one to go generally is the head coach, is always the head coach. So we got, what's his name? The former Cardinals head coach, Cliff Kingsbury. Kyler Murray didn't look great at the very end. He was scared to run against the Rams. Cliff Kingsbury got out of there. This time, Nathaniel Hackett got fired. I don't think he finished out the season last year. His first year with the Broncos gets fired, even though Russ looks abysmal. Now the next person to go, Jonathan Gannon, is now the head coach of the Cardinals, and now we got Sean Payton, head coach of the Broncos. And guess what? Depending on how Kyler Murray looks, if and when he gets back to playing, if he looks bad and is scared to run and he doesn't trust himself, I guarantee you the quarterback on both teams is going to be the first one to go. It won't be the head coach this time.
I
It's
think
both the
Kyler
first
Murray,
times.
the first few games back, it'd be hard to judge because coming back off an ACL,
It's rough.
you generally you're a little more tenuous and a little more cautious.
Right.
And I can understand that. So I don't think I think Kyler Murray will still be there next year, right? Even if he comes back late this year and doesn't perform that well, they'll write it off to his ACL.
Potentially.
Recovering from that, and he'll be there the following year.
I'll say this, though. There's so many, I would say in college right now, there are a lot of NFL quality quarterbacks. Now, I guarantee you the Cardinals are probably going to draft one. Unless they think, Josh Dobbs is their backup quarterback solution.
It's nobody.
Although, he played surprisingly
okay.
well against the Giants. He was cooking the Giants in that first half, absolutely shredding them. And then, in the second half, the Cardinals went back to being the Cardinals.
Yeah.
But I could definitely see them drafting a quarterback. And depending on how this season turns out, the Cardinals are still playing very hard. 2 very close games. Now, I think they could lose a lot of these games, and if they're in the run for Caleb Williams or a Drake May or if Shadur Sanders wants to declare for this draft, although Dion says no, you're not.
Does he say that?
He doesn't want either son to go to the NFL draft. He wants to bring him back at least for one more year. So, they play against they're in the 19th ranked team. They're playing against 10 ranked Oregon tomorrow at 3:30.
I'll be watching that game.
That's going to be a good game, and we're probably going to talk about that on Tuesday. But I could definitely see them drafting a quarterback to say, hey, Kyler, the clock's ticking right now. You got to go up and perform very well. So I think that could be an option. But as of right now, the way this Broncos situation is turning out, it's not pretty. And honestly, if it keeps going like this, it's going to get even uglier, which I don't know how uglier it could get already. But of course, we have to wait and see. I think it's time now. I think it's time for our weekly picks. So this is something we do every single week of the NFL season. We pick every single game, every single week. So let's go with my first set of picks here. Let's start it. So last night, obviously, I picked the 49ers to beat the Giants. 10.5 point spread. I generally say do not pick double-digit point spreads. They're dangerous. But when it's up against an offensive line that is abysmal like the Giants is, and without a running back, their defense was also very underwhelming. Just look at the Cardinals game. I decided it was safe to pick the 49ers point spread. But let's go with the Ravens now. So the Ravens -8 against the Indianapolis Colts. Now I was going to pick Colts +8 if Anthony Richardson was a go, but he is not. However, that +8 still might be an option because OBJ's out. Marcus Williams, their defensive back, and Marlon Humphrey, their defensive back, they're both out. Ronnie Stanley, their great offensive tackles out. Justice Hill, their backup running backs out. Tyler Lindenbaum, their starting center's out. They got a bunch of injuries. But those injuries were also in the last game against the Bengals, and whether or not the Bengals are really that anemic or not, we'll have to wait and see for this week. However, I will say this. I'm still picking the Ravens. Lamar Jackson is still Lamar Jackson. He'll make magic happen regardless of who is out there. So, and also Zay Flowers. Zay Flowers, you heard a lot of, inklings about how good he could be. Well, I think he's definitely showed up. Just take a look at that massive bomb he had in week 2. So I'll pick the Ravens -8 here to win the game. Next one, I think, for probably, this is really the Broncos season here. If they lose to the Dolphins, their season's done, and I think that's going to happen. Because, yes, the Dolphins' defense is, somewhat underwhelming now, and, Russ may be able to cook. I think Tua and, the number 1 offense in the league right now will get the job done. Jalen Waddle's dealing with a concussion that he suffered in Sunday Night Football, but I think Tyreek Hill will suffice, and the Dolphins will get the win here. Shocking, ring ding ding, I'm picking the Patriots to beat the Jets. What's funny about this, and what I'm going to talk about a little bit later for my Harvey Hot Hand, is the first ever NFL game I went to was the last time the Jets beat the Patriots. And guess what? Sorry, Jets fans, you're going to need to wait to see the Jets ring one up on the Patriots. I got the Patriots covering and winning that game -2.5 on the road. The Patriots and Mac Jones get their first win of the NFL season. No more moral victories. This is an actual win. Next one, Texans and Jaguars, -8. Jaguars did not look good against the Chiefs. Several red zone opportunities. If I'm not mistaken, they went 0-7 in the red zone with multiple throws in the end zone, just couldn't get the feet down. So I think they're going to bounce back here. CJ Stroud surprisingly is playing well. I'll take the Jaguars, though, to win. I trust Calvin Ridley. I trust Trevor Lawrence. I trust Travis Etienne. I trust Doug Peterson. I got the Jaguars to win and cover the -8 point spread. Also, let's go to the next one. Titans and Browns. I'm doing this strictly off of the Browns defense. And also, they just signed Kareem Hunt, which is massive. Now, I do understand. The Titans have a pretty good rush defense. I just think Deshaun Watson gets back on course. I think with a bolstered run game, yes, they did lose Nick Chubb. To add Kareem Hunt back, I think Jerome Ford looked very good against the Steelers, who basically just dominated the Browns. I think the Browns get the win here and cover the -3.5 point spread. Let's move on to the next one. Falcons at Lions. A lot of people have actually the Falcons in this game at +3. I don't. I understand a few of the weapons. I think David Montgomery's out. Amon-Ra St. Brown, I believe, is questionable for this game. I just think the Lions, I know their defense also isn't good. I just like Jared Goff. He was my 9th-rated quarterback entering the season, entering week 1. And so I'm going to trust him. I think Jahmyr Gibbs, the Falcons have actually a bad rush defense. I think they've one of the worst rush defenses in the league. I think Jahmyr Gibbs, he's an explosive runner. We saw that in week 1. I think he'll have a phenomenal game, and I think he'll take over this game. And that's why I think the Lions will win and cover the -3. The next one, Saints at Packers. A lot of people have the Saints as well with Derek Carr. Derek Carr did not look great against the Panthers. Yes, late in the game, he was able to pull away a little bit, but he made a couple mistakes there, a couple crucial mistakes. The first 2 weeks have been incredibly close against the Titans and the Panthers. Bryce Young, by the way, has not looked good like throughout the season, and the Saints couldn't pull away until the very, very end. And then again, it was close because they were playing like prevent coverage, and it was a whole thing. Bryce Young was able to drive. But I got the Packers here. Jordan Love, he's actually been better than I think a lot of people were thinking. And I think, yes, there are a few injuries, a few questionables. I think most of them will be good to go on the Packers offensive side. I got Jordan Love cooking up a Saints pretty good defense here, winning at home and covering the -1.5 point spread. Bills at Commanders. Now, I think a safe bet actually would be Commanders +6.5, but the Bills win the game. I don't think so, though. I think that could be smart just based on what we've seen from the Commanders thus far this season, but I will take the Bills. Josh Allen, James Cook, Stephon Diggs. I got this team, and they also have a pretty good defense. Micah Hyde and Jordan Poyer, they have been cooking all game, all week, all season long. I got, the Bills to bounce back from week 1. They took over the game at the Raiders. So I'll take the Bills to win here and cover. Keep that, dominant streak. Keep it going. Next one, Chargers at Vikings. This is basically a pick'em game. I'll pick the favorite here. Vikings win and cover the -1 point spread. I mean, the one thing that a head coach should do is get your side of the ball right. And Brandon Staley has not done that. Their defense, on paper, they have a bunch of talent. Derwin James, J.C. Jackson, Khalil Mack, Joey Bosa. They got guys all around. Asante Samuel Jr. They got guys every which way, and somehow their defense has still been terrible. So I'll take the Vikings with Kirk Cousins, with Justin Jefferson. I know Alexander Madison isn't a great running back, but I think he may be able to, be efficient enough that some play action would work. Also, you got Jordan Addison. I got the Vikings actually pulling this game out. I know also a lot of people have the Chargers here, but I'll take the Vikings in basically a pick'em game and cover the -1. Next one, Bryce Young's out against the Seattle Seahawks. I will take them to win. I'll take the Seahawks to win and cover the -6.5 point spread. I think Geno Smith got back on track last week. He played a pretty good game against the Lions, a very good game against the Lions. I think really, if we're looking at it, the Panthers all around, Adam Thielen is not being able to separate. They really have no good number 2 receiver. Chuba Hubbard has been okay, but not great. Miles Sanders has been okay, but not what he was last season. I think really with the Seattle Seahawks, they're going to start ramping up here. I think Geno's going to get back into form. I'll have them winning and covering the -6 point spread. Just like I said when I talked about the Giants at the 49ers, Bears at Chiefs, a -12.5 in favor of the Chiefs. I'll take it because the Bears have been utterly garbage this season. Justin Fields has been bad. The defense has been bad. The offensive line has been surprisingly good because Justin Fields has felt so far this season like he's had all day, and the numbers actually backed it up. I believe he's top 3 in time to throw, which is absolutely insane. However, he just doesn't get it to his receivers. The Chiefs' defense is ultra dominant, and honestly, this is the story of the Chiefs. It's not Mahomes making crazy plays. I know Tyreek Hill's gone, but it's not about Tyreek Hill or Travis Kelce getting a 3-yard pass and running it down 45 yards for a touchdown. No, it's this defense. And now that Chris Jones is back and in full swing right now, I'll take the Chiefs to dominate the Bears at home and cover the -12.5 point spread. The next one, Sort of the same deal here with the defense. Cowboys minus 12.5 on the road at the Arizona Cardinals. Now, the Cardinals were actually, they were surprising in week 2 against the Giants, shutting out the Giants and playing very, very good defense, forcing several 3-and-outs on the Giants. But as the Cardinals do, as we expected from the Cardinals, they will either be bad or they will choke like they did against Danny Dimes in week 2. I got the Cowboys defense. Micah Parsons, I think it's between right now him, TJ Watt, and a hint of Nick Bosa for Defensive Player of the Year. Now, I have Micah Parsons winning, and I think he's right up there. I think he's probably the number 1 guy. His explosiveness off the line is nearly unmatched right now in the NFL. I got Micah Parsons in this defense taking over this game and being really the sole reason why, because you lost Trayvon Diggs, but I think this pass rush is good enough with Dexter Lawrence and with Micah Parsons to cover the minus 12.5 point spread. Dak still doesn't have an interception. I think that continues against the Cardinals. Next one, Sunday Night Football, Steelers at Raiders. The Raiders are favored by 2.5. I don't think so. I will take the Steelers plus 2.5 here, basically because of their defense. Jimmy G with a bad offensive line and that bad Raiders defense. I think the Steelers, while they have been basically anemic offensively, I think they get something going here with George Pickens. I know Deontay Johnson's still in the IR, but I think, Najee Harris has a little bit of life to him. He's one of the slowest running backs in the league, but I think he shows a little bit of life in this game, and I think this defense led by TJ Watt, and also I think Minkah Fitzpatrick may be out, but I'm not entirely sure on that. He was hurt when he hit Nick Chubb and basically did end his season. I'll take the Steelers defense to dominate a bad offensive line of the Las Vegas Raiders and, disrupt Jimmy G. I'll take the Steelers to win here outright, which then they ultimately cover the plus 2.5. 2 Monday night games, once again, Eagles at Bucks. I'll take the Eagles to win, but I have Baker Mayfield in a surprising cover plus 5. Now, what Baker Mayfield has done has been impressive, and I can't even deny that. Hell, he's actually looked very, very good, very, very efficient, and the big thing here, no turnovers. That's the most shocking part about it. But the Eagles pass defense is why I think Baker will actually cover, because of the fact that this pass defense is nowhere near like it was last season. They're trying to find new ways to win. They don't have an identity. Last season, they were able to just bomb it to A.J. Brown, bomb it to Devontae Smith. This season, there's not really much of that. They're playing too high safety against this Eagles team, so that's allowing them to maybe run the ball, but they're still trying to find those big plays in passing, so they don't really have an identity. And the Buccaneers defense, the big thing last season was their defensive identity, which was run stopping. That was not there last season. This season right now, I believe I have the number correct, they're third in rush defense. Todd Bowles, he's back on that defensive front, getting that rush defense back to where it used to be. I think they'll slow down the Eagles' offense here, but the Eagles ultimately come out with the win. However, Baker shocks the world and still covers against the former NFC champions. And finally, the second Monday night game, Rams at Bengals. Now the big question is, Joe Burrow was throwing today, but he wasn't really doing anything super athletic besides walking across the street and maybe going up a hill. But we don't know if he's a good to go yet. They got Jake Browning as their backup quarterback, and they also brought back someone else that used to play for the team. I don't have the exact name in front of me. However, I think what the Rams have been doing so far this season without Cooper Kupp and what their defenses look like, basically they sold everybody away, and Aaron Donald's really their own key piece there. They have been surprisingly great. I gave up. I actually had faith in them early in the offseason, and then once I heard Matt Stafford, his wife saying that he doesn't have a connection with his receivers, and he feels like he's isolated because of his age, I gave up faith in them. But now I probably shouldn't have. I sold my stock way too early. I'll take the Rams here to win outright against the Bengals team, who may be without Joe Burrow, and besides, even with Joe Burrow, this offense has been absolutely terrible. So even with Joe Burrow, I'd still probably take him. Sans Cooper Kupp, this Rams team has been surprisingly dominant, and those are my Week 3 picks. Pretty good, huh?
Yeah, very good.
So let's go into yours. By the way, I just want to say this right now. You're actually crushing me in the spread. You're 18-12.
Yeah.
What was the number
I think
again?
it's interesting that you're 14 and 16 in the spread, but on your hot hand, you're 8-2.
I'm 8-2.
So that's interesting.
Yeah.
So when the money's on the line, you're good.
When the money's on the line,
maybe if the money on the line
prime.
on every game, then you would have a 80% win rate there. I don't know.
Some people I think do bet every game, but that is not me. All right, let's go with your picks for this week.
Okay, so I agree with you on the Ravens, but I don't think they will cover. They have a lot of injuries. The Colts, even though Richardson's not playing, Minshew has had some games where he's played well and actually played quite well when he came in last week for the injured Richardson. So I think that the Ravens will win, but I do think they won't cover. So I think that's going to be a close game. I think the Dolphins are going to crush the Broncos. I'm sorry. The Dolphins look like one of the best teams in the league, too. I think they're right up there. I mean, the way they played the last couple of weeks and against the Patriots, the Patriots have one of the best defenses, I think, and the Dolphins will be able to move the ball really well and run the ball well, and not just their passing game. They ran the ball really well, too. So I like the Dolphins to beat the Broncos. And next game, a very interesting game. I'd say it's a must-win for the Patriots. They got to win this game. And they're favored. I think they'll cover. I think that the Jets lose this game. There's going to be all-out panic. All-out panic with the Jets. They're going to have to do something about Zach Wilson. I'm pretty sure Bill Belichick will have his number like he's had in the past. He'll know how to handle him, and Zach Wilson could be another 3-pick game for him. And if it is, I think the Jets are in full-blown panic, and I'm not sure what they're going to do. There are some quarterbacks out there they could bring in, but I think that Jets Nation will be all over them, and they're going to have to do something. And it's unfortunate that with all the money they put into getting Aaron Rodgers and all the people they gave away and picks to get him in here and have him get hurt in the first 4 plays of the game and wind up right back where they were last year with a pretty good team, a really good team actually, with everything but the quarterback. And so far, Zach Wilson's proving that he's the same old Zach Wilson. So we'll see. Jaguars against Texans. I think the Jaguars will win this game, but I don't think they'll cover. C.J. Stroud, he's looking like the pick of the draft there, right? I mean, he had a really good game last week, and I think he's got the hang of it. And the Texans, they've got that great Will Anderson on defense, too. They're building around those two guys, Stroud on offense and Anderson on defense. I think they could give the Jaguars a hard time. I think the Jaguars will win, but I don't think they're going to cover. Titans against the Browns. I'm picking the Titans. The Titans played very well last week. Ryan Tannehill came out of his slump. He had a very good game. He completed almost all of his passes. I think the Browns are imposters. I'm sorry. I don't think that they're going to be good this year. They lost their best running back. Nick Chubb is gone. They bring in, what's his name?
Kareem Hunt.
Yeah, Kareem Hunt. I think he was good there for the Chiefs for a while. And he got into trouble, went over to the Browns. He's an average guy now. I don't think he's any world beater. So, and I don't think Deshaun Watson's a world beater anymore either. He's played average so far. And so I think the Titans will, with Derrick Henry pounding the ball into the defense there, and maybe Ryan Tannehill having at least another good game, I think they find a way to beat the Browns, and the Browns at home. The Lions and the Falcons. It's tough to not pick the Falcons. I mean, they have Bijan Robinson. Could be the rookie of the year.
That was my pick.
Yeah. I think he could be the rookie of the year. He had a great game last week. They're getting it done with their quarterback. They have a good coach. I think that guy's a good coach. It's interesting in their division now. We picked that to be the weakest division in the league, right? 3 teams are undefeated. So it's pretty interesting that the NFC South looks pretty good. They all have pretty easy schedules, though. So I think that has more to do with it than the skill of the teams. But I'm picking the Lions, and I think they'll cover. But the Lions lost to the Seahawks last week at home, and after they beat the Chiefs. Come on, how does that happen? I don't know. It could be the culture of the Lions. You got to be. They've never done anything Lions for so long, right? So it's kind of a very important win for the Lions to beat the Falcons here. I think they're going to pull it out, and they'll cover the spread there. Saints and Packers. This is a tough one too. The Saints are undefeated. The Packers 1-1. I like the Saints. I think the Saints will win this game. The Packers are favored. I think that Derek Carr, getting more used to the new offense, will have a good game. He's a quality quarterback. He's at least as good as Love, and maybe better. And the Saints have some weapons on offense. Wide receivers are good. They have decent running backs. So I think the Saints are going to win this game on the road.
I just want to say this. Graphics a little bit wrong. The spread should be on the other side. That's my fault. But just
okay.
a little bit
Well,
of clarification. Saints
just make
plus
sure.
1.5.
I'm saying that
Saints
the Saints
plus
are
one and a
plus
half.
1.5.
I'll fix that.
Exactly.
I'll fix
Okay.
that in post.
Okay, thanks. Okay, the Bills looked great last week. They made the Raiders look really bad. I think the Raiders are never really in that game, and I think the Commanders will not be undefeated at the end of this week, and I think the Bills will cover. They're playing at the Commanders, and the Commanders look to be better than what we thought, but I think the Bills are just too much. They really looked good last week, and Josh Allen had a bounce-back week. He looked like a world-beating quarterback to me, and their defense is very good. So I just think the Bills will win this game and cover. Vikings and Chargers, this is kind of a tough pick. I think the Chargers have a lot of talent. I think that if Staley loses this game and loses a couple more, they'll axe him in the middle of the season. I don't think they'll stick with him. And the Vikings, I do think, will pull us out and cover, but I think it will be a very close game. The only reason I think I'm picking the Vikings is because they're playing at home. And they do. Kirk Cousins and Jefferson is a pretty lethal combination. I don't think their defense is much better, even though they got a new defensive coordinator. But I do think that they'll pull this one out and win their first game of the season. The Panthers and the Seahawks. Bryce Young, what do you think? Is he durable enough to play in the NFL? He's hurt.
Well, he's already hurt. He's already out
hurt.
he may be out a couple weeks.
What's his injury?
I believe it's I think it's an ankle, if I'm not mistaken.
Ankle injury?
Yeah.
I don't know.
He's
I
small.
thought maybe
Small.
he's not hurt that bad. He's just not ready to play, and they want to let him watch for a couple
I
more
don't think
weeks.
that's
You don't
it.
think so?
I don't think so.
Who's the backup quarterback for the
Andy
Panthers?
Dalton.
Oh, wow. Andy
Your
Dalton.
favorite quarterback.
Yeah, well, that's even more reason to pick the Seahawks to win this game. Yeah. So I think the Seahawks will win and cover at home with their 12th man on in the stands, their fans. The way that stadium is constructed, right, that keeps the sound inside. It's really very hard for the opposing team playing in that stadium. Chiefs-Bears, I agree with you. The Chiefs are going to crush them. I don't see the Bears doing well. I feel bad for Justin Fields that after his sticking his foot in his mouth this week, he's got to play the Chiefs because that's going to be a tough game. They got Chris Jones is back now. It only makes their defense stronger. It'll make the time that Justin Fields has had in the pocket a little shorter. Maybe he'll stop thinking and start running. I don't know. We'll see. But he'll be running for his life, I think, in this game because I think the Chiefs are going to stomp him. Cowboys and Cardinals, again, I think, the double-digit point spread, Cowboys are going to cover. The Cowboys only given up 10 points this year so far. In 2 games, they're averaging 5 points given up on their defense. Their defense is awesome. Yeah. It's really awesome. So, and the Cardinals, we saw what the Giants did to them the second half last week. Joshua Dobbs, I don't think he's a world beater against the Cowboys. I think the Cowboys are going to stomp them. Yeah. Steelers and Raiders. I think the Raiders did not look good last week, Nate. They didn't look good against the Bills. And the Steelers have a defense that's probably right up there. I think it's with T.J. Watt, the way they played last week, scoring 2 touchdowns. I think they're comparable to the Bills in terms of defense. So the Raiders are going to have their hands full with the Steelers' defense. I think the Steelers' offense play a little bit better. I mean, it really didn't do much last week, but it has the ability. Or the Pickens, that guy he's a really good receiver. And Kenny Pickett, he's got a good arm. He's just young. I think he just needs a little more experience. He did show some flashes of brilliance last year, and I think in this game maybe we'll see that again. I think they're going to upset the Raiders.
Again, graphics wrong. Switch the point spread to the other side.
That's on you. It's okay.
That is on me.
I'm not holding that against you. Okay, Eagles, Buccaneers. They're both undefeated. And I think the Buccaneers are a surprise, really. And you know what, Nate? Maybe maybe the Bears playing so poorly against the Buccaneers is because the Buccaneers have a good defense. I mean, they've had good defenses, right? I mean, the pass defense has never been that great, but they've been really good against the run. This year, they've improved their pass defense. Maybe they have one of the better defenses in the league. So they could give the Eagles a tough time, but I do think the Eagles will pull it out and cover. They are playing at the Buccaneers, too, and Baker Mayfield seems to have a rebirth now. I think a lot of it has to do with the outstanding receivers that he has. So I think that could be a very interesting game, but I do think the Eagles will pull it out and cover. The Rams and the Bengals, I'm picking the Bengals. I think the Bengals started out slow last year. The Rams are still without Cooper Kupp. The Rams, they sold out on defense this year. They got rid of a lot of their players. You're right, they've overperformed from what we thought they would on defense. I think this will be a very close game, particularly if Joe Burrow is not in the game or is limited because of his calf injury. I do look for the Bengals. I don't see them going 0-3 this year, so at the beginning of the year. So I think they'll win and cover. And those are my picks.
Pretty good for this week. Pretty good. Now, I think it's time. Now, I do this every single week after we do our picks for the week. It's called my Harvey Hot Hand. My Harvey Hot Hand basically is where I pick what I think is the 5 hottest teams that you can bet your money on. I'm 8-2 so far this season. The overall my points per record hasn't been great. However, when the money has mattered, when the cards are pushed to the table and the money's on the line, I am in my prime. I'm going 8-2, and let's hope I can continue my streak for this week's set of picks. Let's begin with my first pick of the week.
Patriots at Jets.
So what I got so far is I got the Patriots beating the Jets and covering the -2.5 point spread. Zach Wilson, to say he's been bad against the Patriots has been an understatement. Nearly a 1-4 touchdown to interception ratio, barely above 50% completion percentage. And when it's up to Zach Wilson, he likes to show off. He's got that, sort of frat boy personality to him. He literally threw the game away. He's been terrible against Bill Belichick. I'll take Mac Jones and Bill Belichick, the superior quarterback and the superior head coach, to beat up on the Jets. Zach Wilson, I'm sorry, Jets fans. The first ever NFL game I went to, which I believe was the 27th of December, 2015. That was the first game I ever went to. That was the last time the Jets beat the Patriots. It's not going to happen. Now, for 7.5 years, the Jets have not beaten the Patriots. That continues on Sunday. The next one.
Chargers at Vikings.
Chargers at Vikings. I got the Vikings in a pick'em game, essentially, covering the -1 point spread. So basically what I've seen here is Justin Jefferson and Kirk Cousins not in prime time in a 1 p.m. game. They've been pretty good. Hell, they've been great. Justin Jefferson, we 1,800 yards last season, won Offensive Player of the Year. I think, maybe we're going for that again this year. I think Kirk Cousins, he's on pace for the most passing yards in NFL history. However, he's also on pace for an 0-17 record. That changes. Now, the thing with the Chargers is your head coach generally should get his side of the ball right. The Chargers defense has been abysmal basically since Staley got there. They've had the same problems year in and year out. With the amount of talent they have with Derwin James, Asante Samuel, Khalil Mack, Joey Bosa, I mean, the list goes on with the amount of talent they have on defense, and they've been absolutely terrible. That continues on Sunday with the Vikings beating out the Chargers 28-21, covering the -1 point spread. The next one.
Bears at Chiefs.
Now, this is against my rule. I've always said this. Never bet with double-digit point spreads. But when it comes to the Bears and the Chiefs, you have to. It's Patrick Mahomes against, Justin Fields and this Bears team. The Bears are awful basically in every facet of the game. Special teams, offense, defense, even coaching, you name it. With Mahomes, and surprisingly, the story of the Chiefs is not about Mahomes and the offense. It's about Chris Jones and this dynamic and dominant defense. So I really think Justin Fields in this offense is going to get shut down entirely. I'll take the Chiefs to cover a 12.5 point spread and beat out the Bears 30-13. The fourth out of fifth one I have for this week is
Steelers at Raiders.
Steelers at Raiders. The fact that the Steelers are not favored in this game against the Jimmy G offense with last year's 30th ranked defense and 30th ranked offensive line is shocking. I mean, Jimmy G has played okay so far this season, but this Steelers defense against the Browns team, they showed why they could actually be potentially, an interesting team this season. And besides, you have a very superior head coach in Mike Tomlin versus Josh McDaniels. Sometimes coaching is all you need to win games. And this time, I think Kenny Pickett and the Steelers team will get it done. I believe this is a Sunday night game. I got the Steelers winning outright, so covering them plus 2.5 point spread. I had them winning 20-17, a low-scoring game, heavy on the defense. And my final one of week 3, I got
Rams at Bengals.
We don't know Joe Burrow's status for this game. Also, they have a rookie receiver who has been lights out since Cooper Kupp, since he's on IR. We got Puka Nacua, who has absolutely been insane so far this season. I think he's stepped up. We have Tutu Atwell that stepped up. The running game, they got rid of Cam Akers. I think Cam Akers requested a trade last season. Didn't go through. I mean, they were looking for him. They finally get off him. I think Matt Stafford has been lights out. This defense has been surprisingly good. They were this close. Sean McVay was this close to finally beating Kyle Shanahan, and they didn't get it done. This time, with an anemic Bengals offense, regardless if Joe Burrow's out there or not, it could be anyone at quarterback. So far, they've been absolutely terrible. I'll take the Rams to actually win, and some people call it a blowout. I have them obviously winning outright, covering the plus 3 point spread. I have them winning 27-14. Let's hope I can continue my streak of 8-2. I've gone 4-1 each of the past 2 weeks.
Yeah, that's great.
Let's hope
you're doing great there. I was surprised you didn't pick the Cowboys over the Cardinals, another 12.5 point spread, right?
Dak likes to make mistakes.
The Cowboys have only given up 10 points this year.
I understand,
Yeah.
and Dak has looked very, very good. But like I said, if I'm gonna pick on a point spread, I'll go with Mahomes over Dak any day. I'll go with Mahomes over Dak any day. So far, by the way, if any of you are keeping up with Fox Bet Sportsbook and you were doing my picks, I just want to give you some numbers here that are encouraging and maybe can give me some credibility. So if you bet $20 on each of my Harvey Hot Hand picks on Fox Bet Sportsbook, if you're doing the point spread, so far that's obviously $100 a week, which is an insane amount. However, you would have made so far, bringing back $200. You would have won $140 back on that. You'd be $340 in your bank account. This week, you're going for a $91 payout, nearly doubling your money this week. Let's hope I can continue that streak. And maybe if I go 5-0, there you go. I would have like $530 right there saved up for that. So there you go. Hopefully that adds a little bit of credibility. We got some news. Tuesday, big show. We got my brother coming on Tuesday's show. I'm going to interview him, talk about some sports, talk about the Jets, talk about the Patriots, how big a loss was Trayvon Diggs to the Cowboys.
He's a big Jets fan.
A huge Jets fan, lifelong Jets fan. Maybe, joke around with some Mets. We'll have to wait and see, obviously. But that is Tuesday. It's going to be a big show. We're going to talk about a bunch of Sunday's games. Maybe Russell Wilson and Sean Payton will get back on the same page and win a game. Of course, we'll have to wait and see. But for this episode of The Harvey Hour, my name's Nathan Harvey. That's my dad, Stephen Harvey. We are the co-hosts of The Harvey Hour. Catch us Tuesday, 6:30 p.m. Eastern for a massive show. Catch us then.
Using Wi-Fi without NordVPN could mean sharing your private stuff with more people than you think. Stay safe on public Wi-Fi. Get NordVPN's special offer and encrypt your internet connection. NordVPN. Online security starts with